vote in the legislature on any statewide curriculum.
Yes.
That still leaves the local school boards free to implement curriculum that they choose without the legislature voting on it. Is that right?
Yeah, that would, but the other thing that Mike Fair has done also too, Mike Fair has ordered a cost study for the implementation of the Common Core standards, which hasn't been done. So the state signed on to this, the school board signed on to this without studying how much it's going to cost. We've commissioned a private study as to how much that's going to cost, and Mike Fair and General Zayas are conducting this study in the legislature. Texas estimates it's going to cost them $3 billion.
And what can the Patriot groups in the state do?
Back up Senator Fair and get co-sponsors, and we need sponsors in the House. This is a simple matter of parental sovereignty, state sovereignty, local control. Simple matter. Let the people's representatives have a say in this. Let them decide this.
Emmett, I want to thank you for that. I know you got off gold into something I know you're really interested in. Let's give Emmett a hand, folks.
That's the type of thing that happens when federal government thinks they have unlimited money.
They are connected, yeah.
Rich, it seems like everything's connected to gold and real money, but there's something in your writings I want to bring up. I know you're not prepared, but I'd like to, as much as you've written about this topic, give us a synopsis. I think some of us would be interested. And that's the pension systems you've been writing about. Could you briefly talk about some of the states are in trouble?
Sure. Well, there are about 20 states whose public pension systems are in serious trouble and are threatening to run out of money in the next 10 years or so. And it's gotten to the point where the benefits promised to public workers and retirees are so out of whack and greater than the contributions that go into the system that the structure is really unsustainable. And the threat there is that the public pension debt will get pushed on taxpayers in the form of higher taxes and also deep cuts in public services. Not just the kinds of services that we think are excessive, but like core police, education, firefighting services, and that's what's happened in localities where they've, like Vallejo, California, for instance, where the city went bankrupt, and instead of restructuring the pension system, they pushed the whole burden on the citizens in the form of tax increases and service cuts, and now the city's a wasteland. So we can't see anything like that. I mean, we don't want anything like that to happen in our localities, in our cities and towns, or from the state level. And South Carolina's pension deficit is 3 times bigger than what the state really reports. That's because the state uses accounting measures that artificially underestimate the size of their unfunded liabilities. They say $17 billion. In reality, when we've had financial economists have calculated the true tap, it's about $57 billion. In a state that has, what, a $5 billion operating budget?
So you're basically austerity for the working person.
Yeah, that's a great way of distilling it. We really need to move on this as the legislature comes back and to get behind a comprehensive, bold pension reform plan. What the BCB has proposed so far in terms of trimming the cost of living allowance or freezing it, and then bumping up the retirement age by a little bit are helpful, but they're just really incremental and on the edges of what needs to be done. So we need to look at, number one, restructuring pension commitments and challenging ones that are excessive and 6 figures and don't merit being awarded versus depriving the taxpayers of essential services, and then move from a defined benefit structure to a defined contribution structure, which is what the private sector and most of the federal government has. So contributions and benefits actually match up, and we don't have to worry about saddling taxpayers after us with $57 billion in pension debt.
Rich, I know I was here when the governor had her economic summit. Now, everyone was there, Richard Extra, everyone was there except our state treasurer. And he's had some difficulties with the governor and some accounting procedures. That said, everyone knows some of those disagreements. Moody's was there that day, and basically the testimony was to Moody's because everyone went downgrade. How many other states are undergoing that pressure? And I think it has to do with what you just stated. This pension system is not accurately reflecting the liabilities.
Yeah. Like I said, there are 20 states who are seriously under threat of going insolvent in the next decade, and so they'll have the credit agencies, watching them like hawks. And the Government Accounting Standards Board, which is the national overseer of pension accounting standards in the public sector, not a very good group otherwise. They've let all of this this phony accounting really happen. They are actually instituting a reform that will put some more stricter measures and make the states account for their pension debt on their balance sheets. So they'll have to report that, and that'll make it harder. That'll make them own up to it to some degree. And the SEC is actually suing all the states for not including their pension debt in their general and their bond offerings. So it's portending serious consequences for state credit ratings, and it's certainly the #1 public finance issue of our time at the state level, and the biggest threat to the states not being able to roll over their debt.
We've got two questions. One, to what extent in South Carolina, we get a lot of federal money because of military bases and things. To what extent does our dependence on federal dollars have an effect on the credit rating potentially? I think we have the highest unemployment still in the country. And the other thing is, what can we do in South Carolina to stabilize the economy, in your opinion, compared to the other states? What is it we can do besides sound money?
Yeah, for the first one, I don't know. I think in a state like Virginia, where I live, it's similar, and they have a top-notch credit rating, a better fiscal situation, but they also have more of a federal government presence, and when you have that, it's kind of like you're being subsidized.
And so if the federal government were to cut back on money going out to various programs, I mean, obviously we would be hurt because we get so much in federal dollars. So I think that's...
In the short term, yeah, it'll be you'll lose the guarantee of a revenue base that the federal government provides. And on how do you improve your own economy? I think it already is. The foundation is there. I think with having a good tax policy and being a right-to-work state, it's more a matter, I think, probably of fighting back against bad federal policy, and then also taking care of some of the more local issues like the sales tax and getting everything in balance. But I think pension reform really is like I said, the #1 public finance issue. And the only thing that I could see that would really set the state back into failing in a way that shouldn't be in the discussion.
Any other questions for Rich? Rich, I want to thank you and the American Principles Project. Joe, I know you're a consultant or lobbyist who paid you that day, but thanks for coming down here from Washington, D.C. and for helping not only various committees working on the Sound Money Project, but for coming. This is a nonpartisan group, so everyone's welcome here, even Democrats sometimes. Even the Occupy movement came one day. So what leads here is not any individual, but it's an issue that leads. So we focus on the issue. But I want to thank you for coming down and for supporting Sound Money efforts and freedom in South Carolina. And please do a Google search on his name. He's got some great articles out there. The pension article is really important. Let's give him a hand. Thank you.